Yo, what's up, guys? I appreciate you coming on the show. I found you guys, like many people did, on TikTok, and I was really taken by your flow and your vibes, your beats. It was really good energy. Glad to have you guys on today. So, thank you for being here.
Well, appreciate it. Appreciate that.
For people just listening, you guys want to maybe introduce yourselves? Maybe people can put a name to the voices they're about to hear.
Yeah. My name is Apollo. I'm Zay.
I'm Arshad. And I'm Marcus Isaiah.
All right, cool. We'll keep reminding people throughout the show. Maybe as you guys talk to each other, you can say, "Hey, what's up?" Use names so we can follow along. People just listening. To start out, I was wondering, like, how did you guys come together as Bungalow Collect, and but what's the story behind the name? What's the story behind the founding? How did that all happen? Because I feel like rap groups are not as common as they once were. It seems like, at least, and I would like to know how that kind of all happened.
Yeah, so we each of us, the four of us individually were making music at one point, separate from each other, but throughout that time, because three of us went to college together, myself, Apollo, and Marcus, and then Zay and Apollo grew up together, went to high school together. Um, and so that's kind of like how the worlds collided. We had started making music while we were in college individually. And then after college, Marcus and I had a spot in Brooklyn in New York. And it was just kind of like a central space where people would just pull up, make a ton of music. We had friends that were like designers that would pull up and kick it, like just our other friends around the city. So it was really like a hub, kind of like a creative hub type situation. And we ended up naming that spot the Bungalow.
Okay.
So that was like the spark for the name. And then it got to a certain point where we were just making so much music, and we eventually, like, through our first show, like right before COVID, um and that's kind of when we put the name behind it, like the full Bungalow Collect name behind it. We threw that show literally right as COVID was hitting New York in February 2020. And that was it. And the first song we made together actually happened to be Tell Me Where to Go, which I'm
Wow.
sure you've heard at this point.
I have, and a lot of other people have heard it too. That's pretty nuts, man. How many plays is it up to now?
Oh,
Last
it's
time you looked, like
over
4 trillion?
it's over $7 million,
No,
bro.
how does that happen? First of all, and how does that feel? Did you guys catch fire on social media? Did someone share it? Like, how does that happen? And also, like, how the hell does that feel?
I could probably speak to that part.
Yeah.
Um, so I like they said, we made that song in 2020 right before the pandemic, and then we actually held on to the song until people were allowed to go back outside because we knew it was, upbeat, people were gonna want to dance to it. So we held on to it until May of 2021, and when we first released it, it actually went viral on Apollo's page first, and because we were all sharing the song, because we didn't have too many followers on our collective Instagram yet, so we all like utilized our individual social media accounts and went viral on Apollo's a few times during that summer. And from there, we actually went on a small domestic tour where we went to Richmond, Virginia, Orlando, Florida. Where else did we go, guys? Durham,
New York.
Carolina, and then we did some shows in New York. And then after that, going into 2022, actually had a YouTuber by the name of Kelly Wakasa, who probably has like over 1.5 million subs by now, but back then also had a strong social media following. He was using our song, and we knew his video editor as well, and they were using our music, uh, Tell Me Where to Go and Things So Mean in his videos, and they actually clipped up silent disco. Have you ever seen that? The silent discos where folks put on headphones and then
Yeah, I've heard about it.
yeah, they start dancing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've not been, but I've heard about it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So they actually had a clip of that of him participating at a silent disco, and the song that they used as the music for it was "Tell Me Where to Go," and then it ended up, I think, going up to like 12 million, 13 million views, but like everybody in the comments was asking like, what is this song? What is this song? And that comment alone had, something crazy like 30,000 likes, and people were responding. And so from there, that's really when I think a lot of doors opened up for us, and just like, the floodgates opened.
So, but take me back before that. Like, I don't know whether it's a year before or a few months before. Before that happened, where were you at as a group? Were you kind of just chilling, making beats, kind of putting stuff together? Were you like were you grinding it out already? Like, where were you at?
I feel like honestly we were trying to just game plan and gather stuff together. For us, it was our first time kind of getting that type of momentum and that type of virality.
Hmm.
So for us, it was really just like trying to figure out what's next, in terms of the music that we're dropping, in terms of, the people that we're going to be dealing with. And then also just trying to how to maximize the engagement, right? And for us, we feel like the first time it went viral, we weren't as prepared in terms of, having the catalog ready, the type of music ready, the content ready. So that honestly just kind of allowed us to see like what is needed, for consistency and like to continue on momentum and stuff like that. So for us, we were at a position where it was more so like, wow, like this is happening, but it's like, now where do we go next? You know what I'm saying?
I'm imagining people listening to this, and a lot of artists, musicians, creative people will listen, and I'm imagining them thinking, on the one hand, like, God, that must feel like freaking amazing. But then I've talked to enough people, and myself being an artist, I know there's like another flip side of it where it's like you have the celebratory part of it where you're like, oh my God, this is happening. But then the reality is, like you're saying, like, oh my God, like this is a lot of pressure to make the next bunch of songs just as good. And then where do those next breaks come from? And then it's like all of a sudden you got to take social media more seriously. Then it becomes like the idea of this is or could be a career or a job or work. How do you or how have you balanced that part of the music career where you're like, all right, this is happening, let's celebrate, compared to the flip side of that, which is like, oh my God, we got to get real, we got to take this serious, this is our one shot, the frying pan is hot, let's hit it right now while we can. Like, how do you balance those two sides?
Yeah. Apollo here, by the way. For us, it was sort of like Zay alluded to. Well, first it was saying this isn't going to be the only time this happens. So we were blessed to have the song go viral, but at that point, like really go viral through that TikTok. But at that point, like Marcus was saying, this was like the third time it had happened. So we knew that we had something that was going to work consistently. And we just researched to figure out how do we build the business, the infrastructure around it, so that the next time it happens, we know we're going to send people here. We're going to gather these kinds of pieces of content from it. This is how we're going to extend the lifeline of it. And then this is what we're going to aim to gain from that moment. So whether that's knowing that, people are going to reach out and what exactly can they offer that we might actually be needing in the moment. What song would be a great follow-up, tripling down on the branding and who we are so that when people find us, it's extremely clear who we are. They have bingeable content. They have a way to just start learning about who Bungalow Collect is outside of just that one song. So from there, we all have two roles in this. We all are writing and, creating the music. Marcus is the main producer that we have making our music. Arshad is doing all of our merch, all of our digital content in that aspect. I'm working on the social media. Zay is mixing, he's mastering. So we're all splitting up the roles of what else comes with the music on the business side, on the everything else side, so that we each can still, live life and make things work as a group.
Man, what I want to get into is the process a bit. Can you walk me through what your process is like? Because working with multiple other friends can't be always easy. You got mixes of personalities. You must all have come from like different influences musically and otherwise. I see some laughing. I can't wait to hear the answer, but I want to know what the dynamic is like. Like I would imagine, to some extent, it's got to be a democracy or maybe it's a dictatorship. I don't know. Tell me what the process is like.
You'd actually be surprised at how well we flow together. And I think that does stem from us being friends beforehand.
Right.
Definitely helps, I feel like, because a lot of times a lot of groups get together and they don't really know each other. But for us, I mean, honestly, we trust each other. We're all just trying to make the best music. So whatever that takes in terms of, the the order, the arrangement, the sonics, you know what I'm saying? We know that we're unique in the sense that we all have our own sound and our own style. So the best way to do that is just to just blend it. And that, allows us to really have songs where we're going back and forth, the transitions are seamless. And that really all just starts with somebody having an idea. Usually somebody comes up with a hook idea or somebody has, a verse flow, and then we all just feed off of that.
So you feel it's more lyrically driven as far as the initial phase? Does anyone come in with like or do one of you guys specifically come up with the beats? Does it ever start with just like the beat and you try to like lay lyrics on top of it, or it always starts with more of like a hook and a lyrical idea?
It can kind of go both ways. Like a lot of the times, Apollo mentioned Marcus being the main producer out of the group. So Marcus all the time will have beats. So there's a situation where he's playing beats. We also collaborate with a lot of other producers. So we'll hear beats from them and kind of just get like scratch melodies, ideas down there where we go back later and actually put words to it. And then there's been a couple times, yeah, where, like you said, it could start from just like a melody idea in your head or like words in your head, and we build out a concept from there.
Yeah, I do want to say what we do is we'll play beats and we'll get our phones and just hit voice record. And so we just put it on a table with the four of us around. That's actually how Tell Me Where to Go kind of started, like the scratch ideas. We set the phone on the table and then like whoever has something, just like even if it's mumbling, you just get into the phone and then just do it, pass it around. And then from there we'll listen back and be like, oh yeah, yeah, that was fire. Keep that, keep that, keep that. And then I think like once maybe like two of us put something on the record, then the other two kind of go off of that. Like, okay, they're more so rapping, so I might make my part a little more melodic, and then we arrange from there. But to answer your earlier question, it's definitely democracy. Like we're pretty big on consensus and at least like making sure everybody's in a good place of understanding, even if it's 3-1. Like making sure that whoever's in disagreement like actually understands like where the other three are coming from.
I'm really curious about like myself being an artist. I feel like there's it's an interesting balance to kind of strike that left right brain thing going on. You got like the super logical side where you're like, all right, this people will like this. This beat might be good. This is trending. This band did this. Let's do something, whatever. And then you got the side where it's just pure flow, which is like that like magical state that we all chase. And it's usually, a little glimpse, and you're like the rest of your session may or may not be chasing after that feeling of like just it's just flowing out of you. I don't know where it's coming from. I'm wondering what that experience is like for you guys, and also maybe combined in this question, if this strikes with anyone, is there a spiritual side to it all? In other words, like, do you feel that maybe like I don't want to get too woo woo, but like manifesting or like just imagining since you were a kid, like I always wanted this, and kind of pushing towards like a dream or a vision. Is that part of it? These are the sorts of things I'd love for you guys to touch upon if anything that I just said struck a chord.
Uh, yeah, I think that the most important thing always is that flow. And that's why what Marcus was saying, that's why we just let it out first. Like whatever comes to mind, really believe in that first idea, even if it doesn't have words to it yet, getting that out and allowing the music really to just flow through you. And then we can get in with the other side of the brain and start to do like actual song structure, like what's the theme here, the word choice for the hook, especially things that we know are going to help it resonate and scale and really land as a song, as opposed to just that like raw emotion that started the track in the first place. So I think that in itself is a little spiritual personally, because it's, where that first idea comes from, who knows? Like it just pops in your head from reps, from everything you've listened to in your life, from how you view the world and how we view ourselves as artists. And then the rest of it is just, transforming that so that the general public and other people can also resonate with it.
Mm. Anyone else? If not, that's all good. I'm just curious because I feel like being connected to the process is like kind of the magical part that people don't get to share. Like people get to hear the music, they get to see the art, they get to see the outcome. I think more interesting to me a lot of times, or at least as much interesting, is the process and the journey and the feelings. I think if people listen to music and they can get a glimpse of the feeling that you had when you're making it, that's pretty magical. You know, I think that's a cool part of making something that didn't exist 5 minutes ago.
I'll speak on behalf of this is Marcus. I'll speak on behalf of Arshad and Zay because I know they pushed me and Apollo in this way. Those two like they can they can record like in pure flow where they're just recording without writing, without honestly like, you know, sitting there thinking of every word. Like they just have that gift where they can just, you know, get up to the microphone and just spit, you know what I mean? And just make something coherent. Whereas like I think Apollo and I, when we first started making music together as a group, like we would try to write every single verse, pen every single verse. And then we were actually like pushing to a way where, all right, let's just go with more instinct and don't overthink it. And I know that's definitely helped me, Paulo. I don't know if you want to speak to it, but as far as that part of the process, like I think that's another very, very good thing about the four of us kind of coming together is that, you know, the strengths balance out like the weaknesses in so many aspects. But in that specific scenario, it's like, you know, I don't know if I would have had the personal confidence to do that unless I saw them two doing it. And it kind of like my competitive side was like, man, I can't always just be pen and pad. Like, let me try this as well. So um, I don't know if that helps answer the question a little bit,
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's something that you're talking about. You know, it's about like intention versus just being a little vulnerable. Uh,
yeah.
does that ever is that part of the process ever intimidating or does that make you feel vulnerable? Because like in art, like songwriting, especially with rap, where a lot of times you know the flow happens so like fast, it's like you know seeing what is coming out of your mouth or your brain, you know, especially I don't know what your process looks like. I don't know if you're always sober when you're creating or not, but it's like sometimes when you're in a certain state of mind, whatever that's driven by, and you got stuff coming out of your head, you're like, whoa, where the fuck did that just come from? um how often do you either self censor or after the fact be like, I don't think I should have said that, that was a little bit too much, you know? Like, does that ever happen, or do you just let it out?
I,
Dang,
I think I think there's definitely some kind of censor. You know, there have been definitely many times we've been in sessions and like one of us say a line, or and you know, kind of just like immediately be like, "What y'all think? Like, is that
They're all
crazy?"
looking at you like, what did you just say?
Yeah. You know, there's definitely many times where you know lines have been changed or stuff. You know, it's just kind of rearranged in a better way. You know, whether it's to fit the flow better or to you know lyrically to fit the song better. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, I feel like we definitely kind of you know stick to the instincts and stick to you know what comes out first. Especially considering the fact that you know what I feel like we've all been blessed with. You know, the ability to have like really good ears for music in general and know what sounds good and know what rhythms and what melodies sound good. So a lot of that is just trusting ourselves and you know none of us are afraid to you know say like, oh, we think you could have done better, or you know you have that you could get into a different bag, you know what I'm saying? So being that we're all supportive of each other in terms of just wanting the best from each other, I think it allows us to kind of be more vulnerable and to be more accepting of you know the ideas that originally come out.
Okay. Do you guys all have the same or similar tastes with your music, whether it's hip hop related or not? Do you guys come from a background where you guys listen to completely different stuff, or was it all they were very overlapping?
There's a there's a lot of overlap, but we all have our own tastes for sure.
Mhm.
But yeah, a good amount of overlap in terms of like, I mean, hip hop and rap specifically in terms of the sounds we listen to. But yeah, we all probably came up listening to, you know, all kinds of different stuff individually.
Any examples you guys can throw out? I mean, I think like the most obvious and probably annoying one you probably hear a lot is like Outkast. Is that something you guys hear? Yeah. When I
I
think
don't
about when I think about like
it's fire.
Okay,
say again. I didn't hear you say again.
I said, I don't think it's annoying though. Outkast is fire.
Yeah, they're awesome. I just didn't know if it's like people are constantly, I think people constantly like to compare artists or musicians or people that are creative because it's like I think on some level it's comfortable for people to label things because then they're like, oh, okay, now I get it. They're the band that's like this, or that's the artist that looks like that, as opposed to just like standing back and just taking it in as a completely new entity. A lot of times we're all as humans very lazy and we like to just label stuff like, oh, that's this, oh, that's like that category. Yeah, Outkast is amazing. Um, yeah, is that a band that you would say that is in a similar genre, or am I completely off?
If you had to pick
Artist
one,
is laughing.
I'm only laughing.
Over here.
I'm only laughing because we've heard it all.
Yeah, tell me what you've heard.
We've heard we've heard. Should I just get into it?
Yeah, dude, get into it, bro.
We've heard Outkast. We've heard Brockhampton. We've heard Backstreet Boys. We've heard
Backstreet Boys. What?
we've heard ASAP. We went to the four of us went to a wedding and they was calling us Migos Four. So it's like,
They called us that in Germany too.
oh right, yes.
I'm like, we
Migos.
go.
But I was gonna say the funniest one since the recent virality on TikTok is like Sugar Hill Gang because we never got that before we said disco rap, and now they're saying
That's
Sugar
like quite an honor right there, right?
It is, I guess. It is.
Isn't that crazy? Like speaking of them, isn't that insane? Like to think like rap or even rock for that matter, both of those genres have been so in the forefront of American culture, and they're both so new. That's like crazy to think about that. Like hip hop's what, like 60 years old?
They
Something
just hit
like that.
50.
What's
They
up?
just hit the 50-year anniversary last year actually.
Sugar Hill Gang was what, like early 70s, I guess. So yeah, like 50 something 50. Okay, that's insane, right? Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Is that something that you think about? Like, it's on the one hand, it feels like it's all been done before, but on the other hand, it's only 50 years old. There's got to be like seeing where it came from. And then I also think about all like the trends with like the whole mumble rap thing, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a good direction to be taking this in. Like there's a lot of stuff out there in hip hop that I'm like, I don't know, like look kind of cringy. But you guys seem to be pulling off something that's like got a good flow and a good energy to it. It's cool it's refreshing to see like talent and like good beats and like quality, getting attention. I like that.
Appreciate
Yeah, I think it comes from the influences you were speaking on too. Because the fact like we all listen to music like Travis, Scott, Young Thug, but then we also grew up like in artists that are lyrically focused as well. So like kind of just that blend. Like we're gonna still say something when we're rapping, but we're gonna make sure it's as catchy as possible as well.
Are you guys talking that as a conscious intentional thing where you're like, all right, our next album or our next two albums are going to go in a certain direction? Like, do you guys feel like steering it in different directions? Like, all right, let's take this more narrative, or let's be more socially conscious, or let's do something more political. Like, do you think about that in the grand scheme of things? Challenging yourself, because you were talking earlier how you guys can, like, a couple of you guys can pick up a mic and just kind of let it flow, and I would imagine that some level of that is kind of pulling out tricks from your sleeve that you've done a lot. Like on some level, do you feel like as artists, all right, let's purposely challenge ourselves to do something uncomfortable or really different to see what we're capable of and what we can do with our voice? Are those too big of thoughts to be bringing up right now when you guys are still starting out, or is that stuff you're thinking about already?
No, I definitely don't think it's too early for that. We are intentional in the sound that we've created and the soundscape of what it is. So disco rap is the focus. That's the main thing that we're doing. And like we alluded to before, we started just making music and figuring things out as a group. But once we landed on disco rap and we realized that one, it was something completely fresh and new and something that we did in a very unique way, but then also that it was still true to us. So not only did it scratch the creative itch, but it also scratched the marketing itch of what that sound. That's where we settled. Now, when we go into a session, we do still like to, try different things. So we might try a beat that's like maybe more house or a beat that doesn't go right down the middle of disco rap, but still can fit in the lane. We might try different song structures. We might try songs that just are unconventional, but we're still all thinking about disco rap and how it comes back to that brand and that style of music. But just within that realm, we've tried a lot of different things because trying new things is how we found disco rap. So we wouldn't want to change that now.
It's definitely a cool like marketing angle for sure. You know, like you said, you know, there's some like Sugar Hill Gang or like Outkast, those are great people to be compared to, and they definitely have like a cool like jammy you know, party dancing thing to it. It's cool you guys came up with a cool name for it. Are you open to or apprehensive about switching that up at some point? Like if you creatively feel like you're going in a different direction, are you at all concerned that you're too tied to what people perceive of you? That's like a common thing I hear from other musicians and artists. Like you build your genre or your niche like so strong that people's expectations of you almost become restrictive at some point. Is that something that you ever kind of pondered?
Um, Honestly, I don't think so. Especially considering the fact that you know, this type of music we actually do really enjoy creating,
Yeah.
and the fact that, you know, we believe it's a sound that, you know, could last years and years and years. It's not just like a one and done type of deal. You know, we feel like there's no real pressure to um, you know, there's no pressure in terms of feeling like we're locked. We're just locked, and we have to make this music for the rest of our lives. Again, you know, we all came from making individual music. We all have our own personal styles. You know, we have some songs that are just two of us. We have some songs that are three of us. So the combinations of us making music and the sounds are endless. We're all very versatile. It's, you know, it's just that we found the sound for the group that allows us to be, you know, most unique um, together as a unit. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's really like, you know, there's no any pressure or to specifically stay in one lane, especially considering the fact that Beyonce just dropped a country album.
Right?
Um,
She's killing it. Wild.
um, yeah, she did a dance album also. You know what I'm saying? And her fan base is there with her. Especially if the music is good. You know, and that's something that we never really have to worry about. So that's I feel like kind of where we stand with that.
Do you guys have any kind of like rituals when you're recording? Like if you guys are all coming into your studio or wherever you guys usually create music, do you guys have rituals, whether it's drinking, smoking, whether it's meditating, whether it's like whatever it is? Are there certain things that just kind of like are shortcuts for you to kind of get in the zone and get in the pocket?
Yeah, we all kind of have our own things. Like some smoke, uh, uh, drinking. It depends on the night. I would say that's less so. I mean, lighting is probably a big thing.
That's number one.
That's what I was gonna say.
I think it's number one.
Lighting, like actual lighting in your room.
It's too bright.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's usually a 3 versus 1 conversation, by the way.
100%.
The
I
lighting.
like it right, personally. The lighting.
If it's me, Zay, and Arshad cooking up, and Apollo comes downstairs or enters the room, he's like, "It's not, it's it's not too dark in here. We can't put on some lights. We can't put on some lights." We're like, "Nah."
How much thought do you guys put into yourselves being role models or representatives of where you came from, whether that means ethnically, whether it means you're where you came from as far as like California or Arizona or wherever else, New York? How much do you think of where you came from and being a representative of that? One of the reasons I asked that, I was on my run today. I was listening to you guys, which is like great music to run to, by the way. And something popped in my head. I did an interview with Speech a couple years back from Arrested Development. Super talented guy, and he went off on a tangent at the time, which kind of made me curious about this with you guys. He put out this documentary film thing about kind of like the N word and like black culture and like how much hip hop artists have to do with perpetuating certain narratives, whether it's in the lyrics or the language they choose. And it was interesting to hear his perspective on it as someone that was, you know, and still is active in the hip hop scene. And I'm wondering how that does that speak to you at all? Is that something you think about at all with your music or just individually?
I think we should each answer, by the way. So y'all go ahead. Y'all go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I can go first for this one. I would say definitely. Growing up in Brooklyn, New York, for a number of reasons. One is where I grew up, Canarsie, Brooklyn. If you haven't heard of it, that's for example, where Pop Smoke is from. So a neighborhood that definitely can be tough at times. And personally, I started writing before I ever started making music. And it was always a reflection of what I was seeing and where I felt like I fit into all of that. So I was someone who was literally always in the books. Like I was school first my whole life. And so for most of it, it was a perspective of I'm inside of this community, I'm near all of this, but this is what I'm focused on, and trying to always push the positivity, trying to always push that there's another angle and another way out, because for me, that was always school. I know a lot of people where I grew up, it is music often, it is sports often, but for me, it wasn't that. And I always thought what I did was more accessible if people had more resources and understood that they had more options out there. So when I started making music, I definitely felt a pressure at first to, you know, talk about things that I didn't know that well, simply to relate. And because part of me had heard that, despite, you know, I'm a huge fan of lyrical music and people who are conscious rappers, there's still always a part of you, I feel like, especially when you're younger, that wants to feel cooler, that wants to feel more relatable, more mainstream and digestible. So you might lean into that, but definitely have reverted back to just, you know, what I've always known about being someone who shows that there's another way, and making sure that my personal brand reflects everything that I've been through, because it's always in being honest and literally just speaking on my own personal perspective that I've been able to relate to people inside and outside of music. So it doesn't make sense to change that now. And it did take time for me to get really solidly here. So I won't say it was always super easy to just be yourself and be confident in what you've been through and who your story can help.
Mm.
I'll try to be quick. For me, I feel like this is Zay, by the way, but my music journey has definitely been an interesting one. It really started through the transition from being a baseball player into music in college, my senior year. And you know, through that, I growing up, I was always musically inclined. You know, I always could sing a little bit. I was just extremely shy, so I never did it in front of anybody. So until, you know, I kind of figured out that I wanted to make music, and I had these guys, you know, pushing me. And honestly, Apollo is one of the main reasons why I decided to start making music, because he started making music when he got to college. And, you know, hearing that, it was kind of just inspiring, and being like, you know, we used to freestyle together in high school and roast people and do that, all that type of stuff. So I know I could do it. It was just a matter of being able to, you know, put myself out there and be comfortable with that. And then, you know, as the years went on, understanding that, like, you know, I consider myself to really be in interested in melodies. So, you know, having these guys be like, yo, like, you know, that you're different in that way. You need to really explore that side of you. And, you know, that kind of allowed me to get to a point where I understand that although I come from Brooklyn, New York, and I grew up, you know, seeing certain things and around certain elements and having certain things in my family, yada, yada, you know, none of that is me. You know, I grew up around sports, around clothes, around women. And I kind of tell, you know, my story through that, you know, through my experiences, through the love stories and the, you know, all that type of stuff. So that's, you know, for me, I try to just stay true to, you know, what I know in terms of being melodic and serving that type of purpose for music.
Mm.
Yeah, for me, this is Arshad, by the way. In terms of kind of along the lines of the origins and like knowing where you came from and why we're doing it, etc. Um, I mean, these guys will tell you. I feel like I take a lot of pride in terms of being from Virginia, which is where I'm from originally, Richmond in particular, and I feel like Virginia, growing up there, like musically, like Virginia has a big place in like music history in terms of like shaping the sound how it is today. From like Pharrell, Missy Elliott, D'Angelo, Chris Brown, etc. Like in hip hop specifically, um, Virginia kind of like is responsible for like a lot of the sound, and like for me personally, kind of like a parallel to that, it's just like the melting pot of like influence I got just from listening to so much music growing up, from like what my mom was playing around the house, what my grandparents were playing around the house, like what I would hear at like family cookouts and barbecues. A lot of that kind of just like informed my musical taste and like my specific approach on how I would make music. And so that was like the original spark. And, even when I'm making music now, like keeping the origins in mind and at the front is like super, super important for me. And then I also feel like as musicians, there's kind of like a burden put on us where we're like whisperers for just like the spirit of people in general. So that can be like a heavy burden at times. And like with my personal music and my approach to that, I try to lean into that, and I'm still learning more and more how to lean into that and to really be able to dig deep into the path that got me here personally, but also making it relatable to people as a whole and finding out, new clever ways to say things. I feel like that really drives me and is a way that I can like, pay homage to how I got here and where I came from. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Mm. Mm. Marcus?
Yeah, for me, I think similar to all of us, like we we grow up seeing so much, and I don't think that's just limited to the four of us. Of course, I think just in general, when you grow up, like everybody grows up with something, like some type of childhood trauma, some type of issues. Like nobody has a perfect growing up, right? And so for me personally, when I was in high school, having family issues or environment issues that I won't get into, but I turned to music as an escape because I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, where like everybody that was in my neighborhood had been in my neighborhood my whole life, and so I was always like trying to make it out, trying to see the world, and so like I leaned on a lot of music to kind of take me out of that, and so as a result, on the flip side, I try to when I make music now, and even like when I first started making music, 5, 6 years ago, and putting it out to the world, I try to speak to my younger self. Like I kind of keep that in mind, and so even your question about like what type of burden do we hold? I want to say like for us four specifically, we like I know these guys in real life, you know what I mean? So like we try to live our lives in a way that is also an example. It's not just like music, but our music is transparent. So like the way we live our lives is also in the music and vice versa. And so I think like the burden is that it's it's heavy in the sense of like what you're putting out into the world is going to live out there, but at the same time, like I think we do a good job of like following our North Star, and we all have pretty strong moral compasses where we're pretty true to like what we say on record is usually how we live our lives, and I think we do a good job of being role models in that way. And yeah, I think we all like kind of push each other to be good guys, you know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah, so much of your music is like it's like feel good. It's like party music, and you can dance to it. It's feel good stuff, and it's. What am I trying to say here? It's interesting to explore both sides because you guys obviously you didn't go into it deeply, but you all implied that yeah, there was some shit in our past, you know, and you have chosen and continue to choose a more optimistic, more productive, more joyful path to take your energies. And I appreciate that. I think that's one of the cool things that hip hop has done for culture, like seeing where it's come from and like looking at the history of it, like being able to like tell your stories. You know what I mean? Like music. If you think about music before that, yeah, there was some incredible music, no doubt, but there wasn't really music that is like telling stories in a way that opens up people's hearts and then transforms it into something like really positive. um, I think that's like super cool. Tell me what other kinds of music. So obviously, disco rap is kind of like the tagline of you guys. So like, what other music has influenced you guys besides rap? Is it as obvious as disco, or are there other bands or music that you guys were brought up with, or like things that kind of intrigue you that have influenced your music in ways, or you want it to at some point? And if that question doesn't speak to you, I also would love to know about some dream collaborations that you'd like to do, because I feel as though it's when I listen to your music, it's so cool and vibey, and I also can see or imagine where it could go with collaborations, with sampling, with other kinds of things. I could just feel where it's going in a great way. So I'd love to you guys to speak upon that if that hits any of you.
Oh,
Crickets.
yeah, no.
Bad question. Should I start over?
Nah.
It's just it's four of us, so like we all have our collabs. I mean, I'll just start off since
Yeah.
I took the last one. I know for me, like just producing as well, K Tronada, just because, yeah, I mean, just to speak on what you were saying, it's like we try to make music that gets people moving and brings positivity to the world, especially like in these times, man. Everybody it's so easy to grasp onto the negativity in the world, especially because that's kind of what's proliferated in social media and that whole machine working. So we try to bring fun, and so something like K Tronada, where it's like this guy is literally DJing parties with his music, where people for those 2, 3, 4, 8 hours overnight, like they are locked in and just having a good time. And so for me, it's K Tronada and just making those types of like dance records that like are timeless.
I dig that. Any of the other guys, either collaborations you can see doing or musical influence that you had in the past that that people might find interesting to hear about?
You can go ahead. Yeah, I just for me personally, like I grew up waking up on Sunday mornings to my dad dancing to reggae, Spanish music, rock music with Blame, like just around the crib. You know what I'm saying? So I've been open to all types of genres and stuff like that, and I feel like that's what kind of is displayed throughout my music. With the melodies and the different flows, and even like kind of drawing inspiration from older like house records in terms of the melodies that they used and stuff like that. That sometimes I literally just start singing. I don't even know why I'm singing it, but I know it's because I have that type of background. With that being said, for me personally, I feel like some dream collaborations that have actually come later on. Because originally, it's a lot of rappers that I used to want to work with, my favorite artists and stuff like that. But more recently, I feel like Don Toliver is someone who I feel like me and him would make some really crazy music. So honestly, that's right now. I feel like Don is probably my biggest future collab.
All right, cool.
I would say in terms of you talked about early influences outside of hip hop. For me, coming up, yeah, it was a lot of what my mom and grandparents were listening to around the house, and like my mom in particular played a lot of P-Funk, like Parliament Funkadelic, which was like a ton of that. A lot of reggae too, like Buju Banton, Bob Marley and the Wailers. And then, you know, super oldies like the Temptations, OJs, Isley Brothers. Like when I got around my grandparents, like it was all like old, super old soul stuff. And then it was like always a little bit of hip hop mixed in, which is kind of piqued my interest and allowed me to fully dive in. But yeah, around the house it was always something new and interesting playing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with my mom in particular loves Celine Dion. So when she woke us up Saturday to clean, it was a lot of that. My dad, both my parents, but my dad especially, a lot of reggae, a lot of dancehall, all of that. So I don't know. I feel like that music has the positivity in it. Well, Celine Dion's a lot of sad music too, but like reggae and dancehall, it's a lot of it's very cultural, and it's a lot of just the positivity. The life can be simple and enjoyable. So I feel like that always comes through.
You guys had one of you guys brought up Germany before. Are you guys actively touring right now? Can people go see you play live? Tell me how your lives have shifted and maybe you know, where people can see you play live if you're playing anywhere. And let's start there.
Yeah. So
Just those.
yeah, we out in LA right now. We've gone through the gauntlet of shows and tours. I remember when we started in Brooklyn, New York, we literally were just doing open mics at first before we were even like really Bungalow, just reps like
freestyle battles.
No. Like we would just do music at an open mic in Bushwick in Brooklyn, New York,
Just
like
to practice.
yeah. Sometimes there was 5 people out there. Sometimes, you know, you might get lucky as 12. Like, it was never too crazy, but I love thinking about that because those were all reps where you got to, you know, just experiment and really find out how you're most comfortable on stage. Then we started doing shows together. We threw our first show, like we said, right before COVID. And we're now at the point where we've done so many shows that every time we get on stage, the easiest thing to do is perform. The hardest thing is what's the set list, how we turning it up a notch this time. So we used to perform a lot. We don't perform as often anymore, but we still do shows out here. We also host parties. So we've kind of evolved from just get on the stage and perform to creating the full culture around Bungalow. The idea is disco rap. It's getting people to dance, getting people to move. So it's not just about going out there performing, which is second nature to us, but also how do we get people literally in a room and dancing and facilitate every part of that process. So that's the focus now. And we have a series called Guest House that we've been doing. We've done 2 so far. So be on the lookout for the 3rd coming soon.
Tell them what it is. Tell them what it is.
Guest House is what isn't Guest House? No. Guest House is a series where we posted the first 2 at a coffee shop. So first of all, it's already like, whoa, what's going on here? But the idea is to get people actually dancing. Like when we moved to LA, there's a lot of like
People being too
people
cool.
just posted up. Everybody's too cool. People want to, you know, be a celebrity for the night as opposed to just someone who's involved in a great event, a great party, and can actually feel comfortable enough to dance for hours. So we're very intentional about the music. We got the old school hip hop, R&B. We got soul. We got disco. We got funk. We got beats and songs that if you got rhythm at all, you're gonna want to move to it. And
Even if you don't have rhythm.
Even if you don't got ready, you're gonna try.
You're gonna find it. You're gonna find it that night. So we do that. We always offer something for the community. So last time we did a raffle for Alta Adams, which is a nearby restaurant. So when you arrive and when you leave, you're gonna have something. You're gonna arrive, you're gonna have a great time, and you're gonna leave with something as well. So we always try to make sure that people have that. They have something to look forward to. We got the merch going. We have, you know, slight performance in the middle where
There we go. We performed some songs at the end.
We give people opportunity to actually also see us perform, but it's very seamless where it's not just, you know, watch us for 45 minutes, but you're having a good time, and now you can really see this is exactly where our music fits in your dance experience.
That's very similar to like older house parties in terms of when you had the DJ and the MC turning the party up and stuff like that. So we're just trying to bring back those elements of like older house parties in terms of people coming and actually dancing, actually, you know, talking to each other, building connections, but at the same time, you know, the biggest part is just enjoying yourself, having a good time, not being afraid to let loose a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
And truth be told, I'll tell you a little secret. It's a lot of people are having to cancel their shows across the country and even in LA because, as you can imagine, like, you know, times are tough for people, and so they're making a lot of decisions of, do I want to save and go to like this huge show at crypto.com arena, or am I going to go to this, like, one small show or maybe like two small shows? And then, like, once it gets to a point where you have a show like every other month, it's like people are not going to just like keep coming out. I don't care what artist you are, it's not going to happen. People aren't going to keep spending their money. It's just a different marketplace now. So we've had to kind of evolve how we're performing and stuff like that. And so we definitely plan on taking Guest House on the road as well, that concept.
What's next, like business wise? Like, how does that look behind the scenes? Like, you know, it's a different world now than when obviously hip hop first came out. Like, is it all about the live shows now? Is it all about the merch? Like, what does the path look like where you guys just freaking kill it and doing this full time and you're not working other jobs? Like, what does that path look like? Do you have a manager? Do you get one? Agents, like tour managers? Like, what does it look like now? And what do you want it to be looking like behind the scenes?
Definitely the goal, of course, like you said, is to just be doing music. What that looks like is right now we don't have a manager. Between the four of us, we're just able to get everything done. Honestly, we're also pretty picky about it because we've all put so much time into everything that we've built so far. So someone has to come in and really match our energy and prove that they care as much as us. That looks like Marcus was alluding to before, Guest House. So the live event aspect of it, making sure that we can get people in a room and reproduce this across the US, across the world. We'd love to tour, and, you know, at that point we get a tour manager, but honestly, before a certain point, you know, there's four of us. So 4 flights, 4 rooms, et cetera, that can be pretty expensive. So before you hit a certain point, touring is honestly not the main goal. It's, for us, it's about getting super fans who are buying merch, people who are showing up to our events in every city we go to because they know that when they go to a Bungalow event, they're going to dance and they're going to have a great time. So being able to get those people in the room and having the music just be the thing that sort of escorts people into the culture that we're creating so that they can do the other things that are actually more lucrative, like buy event tickets, buy merch, and support us in everything else that we do. Because as you know, streaming isn't very lucrative anymore. So
you don't like kill it on Spotify, huh? I heard you guys make like trillions of dollars. Like, no?
Spotify, I'm sure, makes trillions of dollars.
Monopoly money.
What a messed up business model, man. It's like so effed up. It's crazy because it's like, on the one hand, we have this technology that can put you guys in the ears of anyone on the planet Earth. So you have like the biggest reach in global history, but then it's like you're so oversaturated with like everyone else. It's like such a messed up time to try to be successful in the arts in general. And then we're talking briefly before we went on live, like about AI. Now you have AI stuff coming about. It's just so many unique, weird challenges today being an artist, musician, creative person, you know? It's such a strange world.
I would say I actually think that's one of the pieces of leverage that we have with the four of us, is the fact that we have had to bootstrap a lot of stuff and kind of divide and conquer. Because one thing we've learned is, like, it's not worth it anymore to spend, you know, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 putting into a music video. That's, you know, you put it out into the world and it's like that ROI, you're not going to make that money back.
Right.
Us producing as a group, even if I'm like actually the one like making the beat, but like us like collaborating, is way more valuable than us spending $3,000 to a producer up front for a fee, because we would have to then stream our music, you know what I mean? Like, what is that? Like 750,000 streams in order to make that initial money back. So like thinking from like, that's where the logical side of the brain comes in. It's like, yeah, of course, can a song go viral? Of course. But it's like, you got to actually be practical at the same time. So like, let's learn how to do it ourselves instead of always like outsourcing, like vertical integration. Let's bring it up instead of, because like you said, like the product of music is no longer like, you can't just make a CD for $5 and sell it for 10 and then make that profit. You know, you like everything has to, you got to keep costs at a low.
Are you guys, you know, being the disco rap guys, are you guys putting out vinyl? That seems like a no-brainer.
We're getting there. We're getting there. That's also another thing that's like, it's a huge cost initially.
Yeah.
But if the demand's there, like we're going to do it.
Okay. How much, talk about the business side, like how much energy and time is put towards like things like you said, like the social media is just like such a constant burden being a creative person. You're like, the last thing most of us feel like doing is sitting on social media and editing reels. Yeah, we have to, you know what I mean? Like, how does that, how do you balance that? Because me, you know, I'm an artist as well. And like balancing that time of like sitting on social media and like sitting there editing shit is like so not good for my creative juices. Have you guys struck a balance that's magical you could share with me on that?
Yeah. There he is, sitting right in between us.
Follows the man.
Yeah, I would say like the head of the social media department here at
Media chair. You guys are doing something right because I saw it, and I like that like, street thing you guys had going on where you're talking to random people and you're like, "What kind of music do you think we make?" Like, I think that's cool. You guys had the cool outfits on and stuff, but it's you know, I would imagine it just sucks the energy out of you. No, do you enjoy it?
There is fun in it, and
Yeah.
your question honestly, where we keep our personalities present in what we do on social media, and that helps.
Yeah.
So, you know, even when I'm editing that, I'm laughing the whole time because it's like I'm remembering us being in London, going up to random people like, "What type of music do you think we make?" And they're like, rock." Or like, you can tell when like people are just like kind of messing with you too, and we get an opportunity. Yeah, exactly. We get an opportunity to show who we are, and I mean, I know these guys, so for me, it's always funny, but I know that other people are going to get a glimpse into who we are. And being an artist in 2024, it's all about people not just liking the music, but loving you specifically. So I'm thinking about how can I showcase our personality strengths as well when we're making the content and when we're putting it out. So it can be tedious. Honestly, it was more tedious in the beginning when it was just like learning how to use Premiere Pro, learning what's the most efficient way to make content. But although I'm the one like uploading it or editing it most times, we all brainstorm together. Like these guys will send me stuff like, "Yo, I saw this was working. Yo, I saw this pop up on my For You. How does that fit into the brand?" So we're all still game planning together. Like, this is what we should try. You know, whenever we meet, this worked. What if we did this way? So it's never like I'm just the only one sitting in a dark room editing stuff and figuring out everything. I might be the one pressing upload or on Premiere Pro, but we know what we have and we know in general like what has a better chance of working as we've just, you know, reps like anything else. So it's still fun. Honestly, it's still fun just kind of reinventing. And to speak on TikTok, it can be a little annoying, but it's never been a more even playing field for marketing.
True.
So in time, it's just accepting this is what it is, and this can help us get to the next step. It could be worse.
So,
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go good. Go ahead.
Big shout out Apollo J on the Bungalow content. You know, few viral moments under his belt. But I was gonna say, outside of social media, also we've gotten to a good point where we have a system in terms of us regularly meeting. So it's not like we're just like in the group chat trying to figure things out all the time. Like we are really good about regularly catching up on the business side, whether it's figuring out release strategies, whether it's finances, whether it's events coming up, etc. So we're at the point now where we have you know, a decent system for those type of logistical things.
Are you guys doing like private gigs too? Like I'm wondering where like number one, how people listening could help support you, but then also where they can see you. Because I feel like, you know, seeing you guys on social media, you guys have like a really fun looking show, like, and just such a great vibe. I want people to experience that. Are you guys doing like private gigs? Where can people find you? You know, how can people support you? Those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, we have before and we're still open to it. we are also in the process of revamping our website to make that easier as well, like direct contributions. There's just so many tools now. It's one of those things where like it ebbs and flows. Like sometimes, you know, we're like very focused on, all right, let's get the exposure, and then so like all hands on deck with like TikTok content.
Yeah.
Then after that happens, now we're like all hands on deck creating music. So we're like constantly like recording right now. The next phase right now is like, okay, now that we've got more people in this swell of an audience, like let's actually find out a way that they can support us, and vice versa, like we can feed the streets. So yeah, we did have Patreon, we did have a website, we did have merch, and now it's like we're on the cusp of bringing that back updated. Because like I said, there's just so many tools out there. Like there are websites that are specifically catered towards musicians. So we're getting there, but at the very least, you know, I think for us, the biggest thing is if you like our music, just please send it to somebody else, because that's always like the best way of getting exposure. It's like word of mouth.
Yeah, you know,
Just
people, I don't think people like hear that and really act upon it enough. You know, you know, people are like, oh, I don't have money to support you, but it's like, you know what? It takes 2 seconds to click like, show a comment, tag a friend, share it in your story. Like all those things, you know, make you not invisible to the algorithm. And it's like, if without that interaction, people could just scroll by like, oh, that's cool, and just flick right by. People are so quick to like flick their thumb. You know what I'm saying? It takes 2 seconds to click share, repost, whatever it might be. And it's like, that's a great way to, if you don't have deep pockets, to support someone that's creative that you're feeling. So I definitely encourage anyone listening to make sure you like follow these guys, share the content, you know, spread the good energy, those kinds of things. Do you guys have a newsletter people can join?
No newsletter right now. No.
Can I definitely make a suggestion? And it's none of my damn business, but definitely get a newsletter. That's like one of my personal, not only personal, but other musicians that I talk to that are doing really well. Like newsletters are like huge, because then you're not like slave to the algorithms of the different platforms. You know what I mean? Like it's like your audience that you keep engaged. And I always get monetization or interaction every time I put out a newsletter each week. And it takes only like 20 minutes to put one out. Like people want to be a part of your story. They want to know about you. And to own that audience in your newsletter versus like hoping that Instagram or TikTok show your stuff, it's really powerful. So it's none of my damn business, but I definitely hope you guys put one out to kind of take advantage of that.
Well, it's our business now. What type of stuff do you put in the newsletter?
So my newsletter, I try to put out like about every week. Everyone's got their own thing, but I feel like if you do it more than once a week, people just get annoyed and unsubscribe to you. Everyone's got a different thing, so you got to figure out your own vibe. For me personally, I have like a thing in my newsletter where I kind of follow a template of like things that are like going on with me. Like if I have a new piece of art that I'm putting out, I make sure I include that with like some of the story behind it so people are connected to it. And then I try to obviously include some sort of like either merch or like, you know, pieces that might be available. I try to include something personal, like at the end of my newsletters. Like I'm a dad, I got 3 kids. So I try to include like a little blurb about being a dad and like stuff that's going on in my family life so people feel a connection. Plus, it's an important part of my life. So I like to share that. And every time I put out a newsletter, I sell something on my website. Every time I put out a newsletter, I get people responding, because a lot of people are not on social media as much. I know it's hard to believe, but some people just don't want to deal with it. But if you have them on your newsletter, I get people interacting, like, you know, this is, you know, asking questions, putting up opportunities, sharing it with people. It's really easy to click forward on an email. But it's been, I'll tell you, over the years, like I'm gonna age myself here, and that's all good. But I started out in like the MySpace days, and to be able to own your audience and not be worried about like, all right, let's say Facebook goes, you know, whatever, belly up. Let's say TikTok goes away, which might happen. We all know, right? Like it's nice to be able to own your audience and like take it with you. And I've taken like my newsletter audience with me for like years, and it's just like grown and grown and grown. And it's like one of my biggest ways I've been able to monetize as a visual artist. So I think that sharing your story, sharing like what's going on, the journey, like your writing process. If you have a new YouTube, you know, include that, because people miss stuff. They might not see it on YouTube. But if you have a newsletter, you're like, here's my latest YouTube, here's my latest song, here's us performing, here's us writing stuff. You know, I think that's really valuable.
No, we appreciate that. We're
Yeah.
definitely gonna act on it. Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Is there anything that we haven't touched upon that's like important to you guys personally or musically? Is there anything that you feel like we still should chat about? What's going on with the laughs? Tell me what's up.
Tonight at midnight, you could catch our new single, our new release, Normalized.
Oh, I don't
Yes,
know.
we are coming out with some new Bungalow Collect tonight. To get get the feet back moving, get the hips back swinging, get the arms back grooving, and doing the little worm thing. You know what I'm saying? But yeah,
Hey, who's doing the worm thing? One of you guys breakdancers? What's up?
oh, we all got a little something in the bag. You know, we just starting to reveal certain things. But yeah, it's new music tonight at midnight. So y'all look out for that.
All right. Well, this is definitely not going out live, but whenever you guys hear this, definitely go check that out for sure. Where can people find you? Throw out some links and some usernames and all that.
Oh yeah, on Instagram, bungalow.collect. Only follows the 4 of us, so you can tap in with Apollo, Zay, Arshad, Marcus Isaiah. We are also on TikTok, Bungalow Collect Official. We on YouTube, Bungalow Collect. We on, yeah, that's it.
Newsletter, soon to be a newsletter.
All platforms, Bungalow Collect.
Everywhere.
All right, cool. Well, I appreciate it, guys. If there's nothing else to bring up, I appreciate you guys being on here. I think your music's awesome. I love the flow. I love seeing where it's going. I can't wait to follow along in your journey and like see how the music evolves and matures over the years. I love it, man. I think you guys are cool. I'm glad we came across each other. I'm really grateful for you sharing some time with me and sharing your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is fun. Man.
Thanks for getting up so damn early over there, man. Holy crap.
I actually did want to add that, like,
Yeah, what's up?
for people just to know, like, we really care about this shit. You know what I mean? Like, we really care, and we're workhorses, man. Like, we've stayed up until 4 a.m. recording, and then at 7 o'clock got up and went and shot a music video because that's what called for at the time. Like, we are dedicated. So,
is there not to go off on another tangent, but what you just said hits a chord with me because I think about that all the time. Like I'm at the point in life where a lot of my peers, people that I grew up with or whatever, most of them are doing better than me financially. But I feel like as an artist, there's some kind of either bug in my system or I don't know. It's like you said earlier, it's a blessing and a curse because I feel like there's a part of me that like since I was a kid, I've always been creative. I've always been artistic. And I've always wanted it. One of the things that's driven me is kind of like wanting to know what I'm capable of, wanting to see how far I can take this, not wanting to like live with regret. The idea of like being able to say I gave it my all. Are there things like that for you guys? Because I feel like there is a lot of mission in how you guys speak. There is a lot of like drive that's deep. Besides just the success aspects. Besides just like the behind the scenes fun aspect party stuff. It seems like it's deeper than that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for us, like music genuinely makes us happy.
Yeah.
And chasing happiness and chasing passion is something that a lot of people don't do, and a lot of people don't get the chance to do. Out of whether it's fear of failure, whether it's the people around them, tearing them down and not allowing them to believe in themselves, right? So, and I think being surrounded by, 3 other guys who are just as motivated or, are pursuing the same, ideals and same kind of aspirations of leaving a legacy behind, right? And leaving these things behind where people could look back and say, wow, this group of guys really, gave their all. They worked their asses off and they showed what is possible if you just believe and if you just apply yourself. So yeah, I mean, I think that and with that being said, I feel like that is the reason why we're willing to be up before everybody else to get something done, and we're able to sacrifice sleep sometimes. We're able to, if we have to split up and conquer 2 things at once, we do that as well. So I think just having that kind of that drive and that desire to just be great. And to be happy, most importantly, I think is what allows us to be in the position that we've been put in.
You guys watching the Knicks games later?
Yes, sir.
Of course.
oh yeah,
Go Sixers!
y'all got lucky, man. Y'all got really
Oh,
lucky.
you're crazy!
They
No way,
stole it
man.
from y'all, but yeah. Maxi did his thing.
He's killing it, man. Embiid, I'm not so sure about. I think they're gonna give him a rest, but I don't know. I think the Knicks got lucky that Embiid wasn't feeling so good.
No time for rest.
Yeah, if they give him a rest, this
One of my homeboys dunked on Maxi in college.
Yeah, no, come on.
Actually,
Yo, you see that? This is no, man. We were watching the game with my kids the other day because my kids are like giant Sixers fans, and it was the one foul that Embiid had. He's like such an oaf. He like just came down. I forgot who he hit. I think it was like maybe Josh Hart or something. He came down.
oh,
He was like his hands just moved. Like his whole entire hand is probably like 50 pounds. Just his hand. And he's like, ugh. And, like
Just
foul
lost him.
hit his nose.
oh, he busted. He was going for the ball.
late in the game.
Yeah.
I was working a gig in an art gig the other day. I was in Philly, and Josh Hart came in. I was playing it cool and all that, but all my family was like, "Oh, you should have tripped him."
Right? You just need to send him to the free throw line.
There you go.
He'll handle that himself for y'all. Because man, that boy is shooting bricks.
Man, should be a good game. I appreciate you guys so much, man. Thank you. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.